Okay, I look like I had the chicken pox because I went to the dermatologist on Wednesday and had some things frozen. So if I look a little funny,
You look great.
You look absolutely fine.
Yes. Well, plus it's like always fun to go and get things done, you know? Like
absolutely.
you gotta go to your girl and you gotta get your face burned off
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
pursuit of like being forever young.
There you go.
So, yes. Okay.
Thanks for being flexible. There's no way I would have made it last night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not a problem.
I would not have had fun last night. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
So
are you feeling better?
yeah, except he really loaded up my mouth last night with Novocaine. I my whole nose. I didn't even know. I couldn't feel my nose. It was
Mhm.
Man.
yeah, he got up. I was like, okay, this is not gonna be fun. So I go Tuesday night for the next half.
Ooh,
Oh, a two-parter.
ouch.
Fun.
I hate oral dental work like that. It's not fun.
No, no.
Oh. Ugh. How are you doing, Tina? How's everything going for you?
Um, I'm like, I slept last night, so I did part of this co-mentoring assignment yesterday afternoon, and then I was going to finish it in the evening. And I hit this wall, and at 6 o'clock, I told Dave, I'm like, I got to go to bed. I like
Yeah.
literally can't even think anymore. I think part of that is jet lag. And I went to bed at 6 and I woke up this morning at 5 and then finished my my co-mentoring assignment this morning. So
Mhm. I'm hoping that
yeah, I'm
I did
just
it correctly.
Yeah, I know. I've got questions too. I wasn't.
yeah, I think so too. I just literally copied and pasted what he had there. And like this time he did not have like a form that we could print out. And then so it
Hmm.
was basically looking at some of those videos on the 360 and
Hmm.
then watching them find this was my understanding. I watched them, found a quote. You know, we had to watch three of them, two more serious ones, and then the third one was like the funny one, which I found pretty comical on some of them. Having
Hmm.
to, doing doing performance reviews every single year. It's just the whole
Hmm.
topic is, and those funny ones was I thought was hysterical. I even sent one of my other team members who's a manager. I sent her one of the links and we just laughed.
Yeah. And then did you guys find like, did you guys, when you did the second part,
Mhm.
and it was question prompt B, the strong woman mind map is kind of how I short labeled it. Did you like look up one of the three that were listed, or did you have your own? Or no, you had to find something that was in the book. I'm I'm not sure.
I
I
I
don't know.
usually
Maybe I read it wrong, but I just looked up to like Malala Yus, how do you
yeah,
pronounce her name? The middle one. I
yeah.
had heard of her before, so I looked up the other two because I didn't know who they were. And I
Hmm.
just found a TED talk from both of them and just kind of wrote a couple notes on what they stood for and that
Yeah,
was it. So
I did the
that's
same.
that's
Okay.
okay.
yeah, I just did the three of them and found some interesting topics on them. And
Mhm.
like she did, I found the TED Talks and just put the links in there. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we're turning in this
No.
paper. Like I said, I just created a Word
Ah,
doc and
sorry.
copied and pasted and
Mhm.
I'm assuming that when we answer the question prompts for tomorrow's assignment that's due or whatever, that maybe we'll have to refer back to this. I don't think we'll have to turn anything in per se, but
Yeah.
and maybe
What
refer back to this when we're doing our PowerPoint.
what I have found is that usually he'll be like, I had quote one of your co-mentors, and then like speak to
Yeah.
it. So I'll literally
Mm.
just go back and watch the meeting again, and
yeah,
I'll watch it on like speed 1.5 or speed 2, and then
Right.
like when one of you says something that I'm like, oh, I like that. I'll pause it and then I'll quote it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do the same thing, Michael,
Yeah.
because when
Yes.
we're talking right now, it's too hard for me to focus on like, oh yeah, I'm gonna jot that down, because then if I'm doing that, then I'm already missing what the next person said, so.
It's hard to be engaged. I apologize. I keep yawning, but I think it's because I ate a snack. Now I'm ready to go to bed. So,
That's
man.
okay,
Well, do you guys want to get started?
sure.
All righty. On my screen, Dawn is at the top, Tina, you're in the middle, and I'm at the bottom. Do you just want to follow that order?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Here we
How do you wanna
go.
do, a quick question,
Yeah.
because like for prompt one, like 1A, the first video, and then under it is several prompts, does it make sense to only read like 1B, the quote, or to go through your entire one?
Well, 1A is just the name of the video and then
Right.
the URL link. So I would say let's just start from like 1B and
Yeah,
then
well,
just
maybe we let each other know what video you read or you
Mhm.
watched, and then go through
Yeah.
1B, 1C, and 1D.
Yeah, I think you need to give it all at once because it all is in concert with
It'll
each other.
flow, it'll flow
Mhm.
better that way than as if we're each doing just like 1B and you do 1B and I
Yeah.
do. Does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. And then if I guess like so if Dawn's going first, she'll give us her first prompt. And then
Yeah.
Tina, if you hear anything you like, or if I hear anything I like, we'll comment on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's go for it.
all right. So the first one, the video I watched was Sheila Heen.
I did that one too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Amos Keeg. I'm not going to say the name of it because I'll kill it. The way it copied over just didn't do well, but that's the one I watched.
Okay.
I think it was how to use others' feedback to learn and grow.
Yep,
Yes.
yep. And then
Yeah.
in 1B, the detailed quote from the video. In any feedback between a giver and receiver, it's the receiver who is in charge. It's the receiver who decides what they're going to let in, what sense they are going to make of it, and whether and how they choose to change.
That's so funny. I picked the exact same thing, except I added a little bit on the front end.
Yep. And then 1C, also give a specific quote from our Kouzes Posner readings and connects with the video. I chose, when leaders are doing their best, they model the way, inspire to share vision, challenge the process, and enable others to act and encourage the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then these quotes share a common theme of emphasizing the importance of the receiver or the follower in the communication or leadership context. The first quote highlights the receiver's role in the feedback process, suggesting that the receiver has control over what information they absorb, how they interpret it, and whether they decide to make any changes based on the feedback. The second quote outlines leadership principles, and it also indirectly acknowledges the significance of followers or team members. It suggests that effective leaders model behavior, inspire a shared vision, challenge the status quo, enable others to act, and encourage their team. In this context, the focus in the leader's actions and how they engage with and empower those they lead. Both quotes recognize the agency and influence of the individuals who receive information, whether it's feedback or leadership guidance. They convey the idea that the receiver's choices and interpretations play a crucial role in the effectiveness of the communication or leadership dynamic.
That's really nice. I like what you said.
You're so eloquent with your words, Don. I love,
You are.
I always love your synopsis on everything. It's so
Yeah.
like to the point, and it's, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but you always do.
Well, the thing I really like about what you said, Don, is you're highlighting the role of the follower, right? So, like, I've had other leadership courses so far in school, where like the significant amount of time was spent on the follower and kind of like the role that they play in the relationship with the leader. And so followers are not necessarily passive. There are active, engaged things they have to do in order to fill that role of follower. And then there are also like, and one of the things that I liked in previous courses that discuss the follower is like the ethical aspect of what they do. So, it is on the follower to dissent or to like not to call out the leader or to like not engage in behavior. But when it doesn't align with their like moral code or their ethics or their values. And so like the follower role is not a passive thing. It's something that's very active. It's something that's very engaged and it's cognizant. So that's my comment.
Yeah, no, good point.
Tina, do you want to go next?
All right, yeah, so same video. I put as a quote, people in organizations all over the world struggle with feedback. We taught givers how to give feedback, ... In any exchange of feedback between giver and receiver, it's the receiver who's in charge. It's the receiver who decides what they are going to let in, what sense they are going to make of it, and whether and how they choose to change. So from our text, I found this quote, to be most effective, you have to make sure that people feel they belong, are accepted and valued, and have the skills and inner resources needed to succeed. Recognizing people for the value they bring to the organization not only helps them perform better in their jobs, but enables them to deal with adversity and challenges. So my comments are, as a leader, it's very important to be able to share feedback with your constituents. As the speaker of this video shared, the receiver is in charge and decides what part of the exchange they want to accept and absorb. However, I feel if an employee feels valued and has the resources and skills they need to get the job done, they are better equipped to receive feedback. There is nothing more frustrating for an employee if there's a mismatch in their skills and what is expected of them. I remember when I was a cardiac ultrasound student completing my internship at a local hospital. When I arrived one morning, my trainer was in a meeting, but told me to grab the machine, go to the emergency room, and get started on an urgent patient who was having extreme chest pain. Although I was a competent student at the time, I was still in the mindset that I needed to follow the protocol without deviation and still in training. Patient I was to examine was experiencing extreme excruciating chest pain. When I put the probe down, I could see that something was not right, but wasn't quite sure. My machine ran out of paper, so I stopped to change the paper so I could print out the needed measurements. And at that point, the patient coded on me. I immediately called my trainer to come to the ER and told him what had happened. I explained what I saw and what I had suspected, and he took over and confirmed what had happened. I had recorded enough of the exam that the doctor schooled me in the pathology and what I should do if the situation ever rose again. I was put in a situation that was way beyond the scope of a student. So I just took this from a more personal experience and just, I feel that like an employee is more willing to maybe receive feedback if they're equipped to handle, like if their skills and their job match, and if their skills and their job is a mismatch, I think it's your responsibility as a leader to make sure they get what they need rather than just go after them with negative feedback maybe. So yeah, I would think like, gosh, if I'm not equipped and somebody's giving me that feedback, I might not receive it the same way as if I had the training. Hopefully I'm making sense, but that's kind of the route I took in my.
Oh yeah, you're making sense. I mean, that's like a really high stakes situation. That's not like on the job training. Like people die.
Yeah, and I did. I thought I killed the patient. I thought because I did not recognize that the patient was having aortic dissection immediately. If I would have, and I would have went right to the emergency room doctor and said that, but they all assured me like his ticket was punched before I even put the probe down, but still it left me feeling, like it was my fault. So, and I've also had at work, I've had situations where we've hired somebody who portrayed themselves like they had more experience than they did. And during the training, and this person was a contractor, and during the training phase, we learned a lot, and we started to interview patients. I started to interview employees differently, and especially contractors, because a lot of times they said they had a certain amount of experience. And so I started asking like really more detailed interview questions, whereas before I focused more on the skill set. Then, so anyways, I changed my interview tactics, and so now we always get the right skill set in, but still people portray themselves differently. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do you guys want me to go?
yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay, let's do it. So same video. Serendipitous.
I
Okay.
know.
Yes. So the quote that I pulled from the video was, what if we could view receiving feedback as a skill? We could get better at learning from feedback by taking charge of it and driving our own learning, so that we don't have to wait around for good givers to learn. This really stuck out to me because I realized like, oh, wow, okay. So like context here, I have been so stuck on, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that is only half of the relationship. That's only half of the concern. And in the real world, the feedback we receive is not going to be wrapped up in pretty wrapping paper with a bow on it. And like, that's what like really stuck with me. So my quote that I linked it to in the text was, feedback can be embarrassing, even painful. While most people realize intellectually that feedback is a necessary component of self-reflection and growth, they're often reluctant to make themselves open to it. And that like comports too, because it's like, how many times have I like heard feedback like from my partner, you know, like he's a very direct person, and sometimes I get hung up on how he said it, that I don't see the value in his message. Now, it's not saying that I won't have like boundaries, like work to be kind, work to soften the approach, work to those things, but I can still remove myself from the situation, hear the message, even if it's like poorly delivered,
Yeah.
and find value. And we get so hung up on how the message was delivered that we miss something because we're like, oh, that wasn't nice. Okay, well, maybe
Yeah.
it wasn't nice, but did you hear anything valuable in there? Because you could still
Yeah.
apply it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so I kind of talk about that. I was like, something I'm recognizing about feedback in my personal relationship with my partner is that my disconnect lives between some of the feedback I receive and the person I know myself to be. Upon recognizing this, I'm beginning to separate myself from the argument being made so that I can better assess the feedback on the merits, i.e., who I am as a person can live separately from the concern being addressed. So, like, to put it in more context, like, I worked 14-hour days for like 2 months last summer, around the same time that all of our furniture was coming in for the house. He was very frustrated because he felt alone, he felt like he didn't have a partner. But he also understood that I had to do the work to pay for school. So like he was just very in his frustration, he was like, I feel alone. Like I feel like I have no help. And I was so hung up on the delivery of that and defensive. Like, well, I'm working, you know I have to work. The reason I was so defensive is because I took what he was saying and attached it to my identity, like she was talking about. And so instead of just understanding and appreciating his experience, I missed that because I felt like this was a qualification of my values, of my character. So I took something way too deep, way too close to heart, and then missed the message altogether. And I was like, oh, now I'm not saying he couldn't be nicer, because he could be. But what I am saying is that I can also remember that he loves me, he cares about me, and he's not always gonna say it right. It's not always going to be delivered like, honey, sweetie, you're the most amazing person and you're gorgeous and fabulous. And I just have one small little concern to address. Like, that's
I
not
know.
going to that's not fucking, that's not happening, you know? And so what I need to do is I need to realize, like, okay, as a listener, as a follower, as a receiver, I have more power at my disposal than I realize. So that's kind of my takeaway. So what I'm realizing is that I want to be good at receiving all types of feedback, even feedback from people who are terrible at giving feedback. So
Mhm.
there,
That's
there.
a good,
That's
I mean,
very
you
good.
had
Yeah.
like a little epiphany here for yourself as far as how
Yeah.
you receive feedback. And I think it's funny because how we receive feedback from a partner can be totally different than how we receive feedback at work, because receiving feedback from a partner is way more emotional, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, like Dave and I just talked about this the other day, and we're like, you know what? We'll get better at it as time goes along on how we present things to each other, you know,
Mm-hmm.
over time. And we just have to, we just always realize, you know, we love each other. And so we're going, but we're not going to be perfect. We're going to make mistakes along the way, and we'll just keep learning and refining and, you know.
Yeah. I knew I was going to appreciate this class. I didn't know I would have a breakthrough in this class. I've had two now. So, all right, let's keep going.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, let's start with,
Second video.
yeah. This one I did 360-degree feedback, the webcast, 5 common mistakes made in a 360-degree feedback survey. The first quote is, people are not trained in giving and receiving feedback. Interpreting 360-degree feedback is not a simple process. Delivery of feedback is paramount to how constructively it is perceived. During this process beforehand, people put up a wall limiting how much they accept this feedback. From the book, my second one, leaders search for opportunities to change the status quo. They look for innovative ways to improve the organization, and in doing so, they experiment and take risks. Since complex change threatens to overwhelm people and stifle action, leaders set interim goals so that people can achieve small wins as they work toward larger objectives. Effective leaders unravel bureaucracy when it impedes action. And because leaders know that taking risks involves mistakes and failures, they accept an occasional disappointment as opportunities to learn. And here we go.
All right.
So my paragraph on this lengthy commentary, both quotes emphasize the importance of leadership and organizational development, emphasizing the need for embracing change, fostering innovation, and overcoming challenges. They discuss the need for leaders to actively seek opportunities to change the status quo and improve the organization while addressing challenges in feedback processes. Leaders should set interim goals to help achieve small wins and address potential barriers for the feedback process. They should also learn from mistakes and failures, viewing them as opportunities for growth. Both quotes highlight the need for adaptability and improvement in organizational dynamics. And it is so funny is we do the 360-degree reviews where we do our review on ourselves first, and then our managers and other people come in with feedback on how they feel we're doing, and we sort of merge the two together. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. And when I know they're coming up, I literally freak out because I am such my worst enemy when I look at myself and have to identify my own weaknesses. It's like I am so hard on myself because my boss, and he knows this, he knows it. It's like I literally will shut down, and it's so hard for me to finish these 360-degree reviews.
I've
Because
only had one, and it's uncomfortable sometimes, you know.
it really is. And this is what our company does for the review process is we use the 360. So what I do is I've learned to keep my old review and what I've written previously, and then incorporate that to how I've improved or what I still need to improve in my current review.
Mm.
So it sort of like has taken the edge off of everything that I need to come up with.
It's a good idea.
Like two things come to mind when you were saying what you were saying. Like, I would imagine that Don, you administering a 360 review would be one of the most encouraging, uplifting kind of experiences for that other person, right?
Yeah.
And because a lot of you'd be in touch with your own feelings on, I know this is stressful for me, so I want to make this as good as possible for you, right? And so in a weird way, that's what you would give to other people. And then I think the trick is to learn how we can give ourselves that grace and give ourselves that kindness and give ourselves that understanding, because you have there are two relationships in that room. There's the relationship you have with the interviewer, and then there's the relationship you have with yourself, and both of those things overlap greatly. And so that's like kind of the first thought bubble that went off in my head. And then the second one, that thing that you're doing where you're keeping the old review and then like kind of using that as a metric or like a starting point to sort of understand how you've been successful. Like that's actually the perfect like interview answer, so like you go into an interview and someone's like, what are your weaknesses? And it's like, okay, I'll list a weakness. And then you're supposed to talk about not only, oh, well, I'm this, but it's like, I had this thing going on. Here's how I've been working to improve it. And here are the results that I've gotten. So all you're doing is just documenting perfect answers to that weakness question in any interview that you go into. So
I was gonna say, Michael, were you picking at our interview questions from Medtronic? Because that's like one of our interview questions, basically, is
yeah.
it's always three parts to it, what the situation was, what you, how you resolved it and what you learned from it type thing.
Well, my other side, like I have organizational leadership, but my other side of this for school is human resources. So
That's
like,
right. Yeah.
so like I want to like merge the two, and I don't know, I guess do great things, or at least make at least two people happy. I don't know. just wake up every day and be like, I'm good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Should I go?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, so my second video was use 360-degree feedback to give your employees a voice. So the quote was, the frustration that many employees are feeling in terms of not being able to vent their feelings about what they think about their organization, about their managers in particular, because they are afraid to bring anything that might be conceived to be negative. And so from the textbook, it's kind of long. Supportive relationships at work, relationships characterized by a genuine belief in advocacy for the interest of others, are essential in maintaining personal and organizational vitality. Individuals who don't like the people they're working with, don't do their best, or remain with the organization for very long. Studies have found about the differences between the task performances of groups of friends versus acquaintances. In groups composed of acquaintances, individuals prefer to work alone and speak with others in the group only when necessary. Consequently, they are reluctant to seek help or point out mistakes being made by others. Groups made up of friends, on the other hand, talk with one another right from the project's get-go. They evaluate ideas more critically, give timely feedback when others are veering off course, and offer teammates positive encouragement every step of the way. Feeling a sense of connection with coworkers fosters great accountability, engagement, and commitment to the organization. So I did another personal anecdote. So twice a year, our organization conducts an employee health survey. As a leader, I receive a breakdown of the various categories and how my team scored each category. Although my scores are normally high and above the organizational standard, the one area that seemed to need work was I feel comfortable speaking up. what I realize is that no matter how often you reiterate your open door policy, some people do not have the personality where they feel comfortable speaking up. I ended up hiring a facilitator who worked with the group on emotional intelligence. So everybody on the team met every Friday for 1 hour. Sometimes it was a little longer with this facilitator. We were all on Zoom. Part of the process was learning to verbalize feelings to your colleagues positively and productively, and also on receiving and perception of feedback. The facilitator had everyone share a personal experience in their life that shaped who they are today. Some of these experiences were very sad and helped people understand the why as to how their colleagues reacted towards certain feedback. The team did a significant amount of work over 6 weeks, but it helped move the needle towards people feeling better about speaking up.
You're saying, as you were giving your thoughts, I was thinking about a relationship that I have with a coworker who is also like a friend of 10 years. And I was working with one of his teams yesterday, and the routine is a mess. The structure of it is a mess. I'm like I was watching these kids perform their routine, and my mouth was actually agape. I was like, and the kids were kind of like laughing at my reaction. And I made it clear to them. I'm like, it's not you guys. It's how you guys are moving around the floor. It makes no sense. This is a mess. And they were like, we know. And so my friend came over, and it's his team. And I looked at him and I was like, I have questions. And he was like, I figured you would. And I was like, how is this team, or how is this routine such a mess? Like, it doesn't make sense to me, because I know you know that how athletes move around the floor during the routine is a huge component of how successful they're going to be. So what happened? Why is this like this? What happened? You know, and the thing is, I can say that to him because he
you have a
knows,
relationship.
because I have that relationship, and he knows me, and he knows that I'm not like in there like, oh, you suck, blah 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 blah. This is terrible. I can't believe you let this happen. But I was like, this is not good. You know, but he's like, you're correct. And so the other thing I did was I took license to just start making changes. So I was fixing things as I went through, and I said, here are the following changes that I made. And it's his team, but he was like, perfect. That's 5 less things I have to do because we have that relationship. So yeah, I think that just speaks to what you're saying.
And consequently, after doing this exercise and some other exercises where we paired people up with another person on the team, another coworker, where they had to meet once a month for 6 months, 1 hour, and just talk. Like sometimes we gave icebreakers. That made that like built the team cohesiveness to where, because how it all started is I used to just have a team here in California in Santa Ana, and I had a major competitor steal 3 of my employees. So that's when finance and HR said, yeah, because here in California, it's a right to work state. So all of you can sign whatever you want as far as a non-compete. It doesn't hold up here in California. So in Minneapolis, where our home office is, those types of things happen a little less because the non-competes stand up. So anyways, they started to tell me, you should really consider building a team here, you know? And so it was hard. I went through a whole pros and cons list, and then it ended up being the best thing that I ever did. First of all, it opened up my talent pool because we'd kind of picked up like everybody in SoCal here. I'm like, I don't know who else to hire, but the Mayo Clinic is right there. And so I found a lot of talented people there that had imaging background. But what happened is the people in Santa Ana started to feel threatened by the people in Minneapolis because they felt all the opportunities were going to go to them, which was not the case at all. And so I had to figure out a way to bring the 2 teams together, you know, the 2 locations. Now we're all remote, and I have people across all the US, and I'm responsible for a team in the Netherlands. So I have global. So even that was a challenge, making the people, I don't know if you've ever heard something called distance bias, where if those coworkers are not directly, like with handing out assignments and things like that, like people who aren't like as close, you might forget to give them opportunities for certain assignments. So anyways, I had to figure out after it was global, then I had to frame, okay, now I brought these two groups together. Now I have to bring another group in and bring us all together as one global team. So I've had that team, the global team, since 2017. And since then, we have done so much work with both groups, both virtually and in person, to create that environment.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, how did you get buy-in for all of your like exercises that you were doing where you had this emotional intelligence coach come in and then eventually had people meeting, you know, like once a month? You know, the thing that I'm thinking about is like people tend to not give value to the emotions that are involved and the communication that's involved in any working group. People tend to dismiss it and they're like, oh, it's just about results, it's just about the bottom line, it's just so how did you get buy-in from the people?
Because, yep, that's a good question. So every quarter, well, we do it twice a year. So then when I get the results, I go over the organizational health survey results with the team. And it's everybody's responsibility. It's just not my responsibility to make sure to bring these scores up. We all have ownership, whether if you don't feel comfortable at something, then you need to speak up. Like I can't force somebody to speak up, but then don't complain, you know, be like, and then I made everybody come to the table with ideas. I said, we
Okay.
all own these scores. So I made them come to the table, you know, everybody had to send in like 3 ideas of what we could do.
Mhm.
And so one gal was very proactive and she organized this whole, like, it's almost like a co-mentoring thing where she paired people up. Like I have 3 different teams. I have a congenital team, I have a TAVR team, and then I have like the local Santa Ana team. So anyways, she made sure, and then I had a mitral team. So she made sure that people were not paired with somebody in their like same little team, that they had to be paired with somebody else. So you could get to know, it was all about getting to know the people in Minneapolis. At first it was the people in Minneapolis with the people in Santa Ana, and they met, you know,
Yeah.
and just chit chat. And that was her idea. And then she made sure that she like kept track of the calendar. We started celebrating birthdays, you know, virtually, where everybody would pitch in. It was like $5, you know, and then we would send that person every year, you know, when it was their birthday, like you contributed, it was either $3 or $5, I can't remember anymore. And then, so it's just, we just started to try and get to know each other more on a personal level. And now it really is, when we have a live team meeting, it's like a family reunion.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's,
It's
yeah.
nice.
So, but you have to put ownership
Yeah.
on the others. It's not just the manager's role. And so they also wanted more learning opportunities, and emotional intelligence is huge. I don't know if you've ever read the book by, I think it's Goldman, Daniel Goldman, I think.
I know the name.
But there's a lot to be said. If you have a chance, like, or just listen to the audiobook. I know everybody's busy. Like I even gave that book to Dave because sometimes like how you react to feedback, he said you could learn a little bit, read the book. And I put the book on his nightstand, you know, whether he's reading it or not, but
Right.
you know,
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. It sounds like what you did was you didn't just say this is what we're doing. You got them invested because they got to shape some of the process.
absolutely.
Um,
All right. So you tell us what your second video was.
all right. So I did the same video as you, used 360-degree feedback to give your employees a voice. Now I got different things from it. So here we go. The quote that I pulled from the video was, when you don't let employees vent frustration from their side, it can lead to them not being productive, to them not being very good employees, to them affecting other employees where they work. So then the quote that I pulled from the book was, researchers have shown that people tend to pick up on the mood and attitudes of those around them, called emotional contagion, and often in ways they don't consciously realize. So I think those two things work really well together.
Yeah, that's really
Because
good. Yeah.
yeah, like I mean, like more work gets done in every organization in unofficial channels of communication, not in the bureaucracy, not in the hierarchy. More work gets done at quote unquote the water cooler, if you will. And that's also like where your creative ideas are. That's also where like different departments interact, et cetera, et cetera. So the feedback I
It's
gave.
also the place where gossip can be spread. And then
Mhm.
the water cooler can also be toxic, I've learned.
Yes, that emotional contagion.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's not a place for people to give constructive, negative feedback to the higher
Mhm.
ups and feel like they're being seen and feel like
Yeah.
something's being done about it, well, then they're just going to go to their coworkers and bitch about you.
Yeah,
Yep.
And
absolutely.
that happens to the water cooler. So the water cooler is really where organizations break down or they stay
Mhm.
strong,
Mhm.
in my opinion. So people talk, and if they're not talking to you about what they need, they are talking to everyone around them. Talk about my partner. My partner does not have the opportunity for 360-degree feedback at Taco Bell International. I mean, they do
Mhm.
it, but they don't really do it. And as a result, he is discussing his needs and concerns with other coworkers, other peers, who also share in his views. His boss is quickly losing traction and credibility because the most important relationship between my partner and his boss is not improving. And then I said, secondarily, these frustrations are spreading amongst my partners and colleagues because there is not a handle on what needs to be addressed. I don't know what that comment was about. I'm confused by that, so ignore that. I just maybe I fell asleep and kept typing, but but that's just it though. Like as so we've been talking about receiving feedback as followers, and this is really about receiving feedback as leaders,
Mhm.
and then actioning that because I things are good when they're good, right? Like
Yeah.
it's easy when it's easy, but that's not necessarily where relationships get stronger or businesses become better. It is in the negative. So when something breaks down, or there is a misunderstanding, or something goes wrong, that thing right there, that circumstance is really where you're going to get stronger or it's going to continue to break down. But like those opportunities and having that like infrastructure set up for, like I have a problem, I have a way to address it, I've addressed it, and it was resolved. Well, after that happens, the organization is stronger than before that happened. If that makes sense. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does. Yep.
So like those issues that like occur that stress the system make the system stronger, I guess is my final point.
No,
So
yeah, you're right. I can absolutely see that.
Yeah.
It's, as a matter of fact, I just went through that. I do a quarterly, presentation for executives,
mhm,
about what my team is doing and, the projects that are coming up and the projects we worked on. So we do like a retrospective and then we give a look at next quarter.
mhm,
And, I have to deal with the product manager. And when I get my PowerPoint done, I normally give it out for them to just leave comments. Well, he went in and completely redid everything.
Ooh.
I got my product manager and there were no comments. He just rewrote it, redid it. And I got back nothing but yellow. And when I opened it up, my face must have said everything that I was thinking because my boss, my manager came over and he's like, do we need to talk? And I went, oh yeah. Oh yeah, we need to talk right now. And he said, yeah, I saw that. Well, what we found out, and this was because he just went in and spent 2.5 hours thinking he was leaving notes and not redoing everything. He somehow would put yellow and then put a comment in, but when he put the yellow, it was actually changing it. So he didn't understand what he was doing, completely redid everything, and just said, oh, well, just go with what I wrote. It's better anyway.
Ouch.
Yeah. So I went to my manager went to his manager, and we had a 2-hour meeting set up. And basically it was like, we don't do that to each other. We don't just, think that our side is better, and we don't, it's when you don't collaborate as a team
Mhm.
that everything starts breaking down.
I have a
I-
question for you.
Yes.
I just need to seek a little clarification on your situation here. So what you're telling me, what I'm hearing you say, is that this other person
Yes.
said to you,
Yes.
I don't know how to use PowerPoint. And that's basically why all these things accidentally got changed. And so, but mine's better, so let's roll with it. Is that the story he told you?
Yes.
And then
And then my manager, who was sitting there, looked at him and said, that's not professional. We don't do that to each other. And he goes, and literally my boss went over the entire PowerPoint. This was just to make sure everything was there that we needed. It wasn't to change and rearrange and do what you wanted.
Yeah.
And,
can you like lock the editing capabilities?
yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
She's like,
well,
I'm gonna do that from now on.
Just
well,
for
no,
just for that person.
what we're doing from now on is he gets a PDF version of the PowerPoint.
There you go.
And if he has any comments, he is to leave them in an email, and they will
Yeah.
be addressed by me. But he is not to go in and just change anything anymore.
Well, one, I am so glad that that is the process and that they're like, this is what we're doing for moving forward because of his actions, because that clearly shows that they value you and support
Right.
you, and that, so it's kind of punitive toward him, but kind of, I mean, I'm just gonna say it, he's an asshole. And
Oh, yeah.
secondly, I don't buy that story. I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. Okay, that's exactly what I would have said. Okay.
Well, I think my face, somebody has once told me my facial expressions give me away no matter what.
Yeah.
Because
Don't play poker, Dawn.
I don't, for that very reason.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, I mean, like, sorry, go ahead, Tina.
no,
I wasn't saying-
Oh,
Goes on.
okay. Well, I mean, but someone working at his level isn't there. He knows his way around an application.
yeah,
Yeah.
he does. He does. And
So.
he just, for him to give that lame excuse, because he has worked on other PowerPoints I've sent him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, he's the kind of guy who, when he gets into a mood, everybody tiptoes around him. I just ignore him.
Well, see, that's a problem right there.
Yeah.
Your colleagues shouldn't have to be tiptoeing around you.
No, exactly.
But
It's
here's the thing. Just if I were in a position at your company and I were witnessing that, he wouldn't be there for long.
yeah. Well,
so yeah.
my boss has said stuff, I have said stuff, but it comes up to the CEO and the vice president, and like I told my manager, I said, you know what? I said, I divorced a problem before.
Yeah.
I can make myself to, now I know how he is. So like you said, I am just going to like remove myself from how he presents it, and then just move forward from there.
Yeah. That's great.
Until they can take care of him as a problem. I can be the bigger person and just handle it the way I know that as a leader I should be handling it.
Yeah.
So, and I think, it was nice to see my boss back me up.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
know that
absolutely,
he had my best interest.
absolutely.
So that really gave me, something to focus on.
Mhm, mhm.
It's good. Yeah.
Okay, should we start the last video,
Mhm.
right? 3? Okay.
Yes.
The video I did was the employee performance review takes a turn.
Me too.
Was that Mad TV? Was that
I
the
think
Mad?
I
But
think
she's
so.
like,
It's where they were doing the interview and then
she's like, you're gonna fire me. You're gonna fire me. That one. Okay, go.
so the little part I took out of this was all the stuff about your job hanging on by a thread. I'm just trying to motivate you, right? I mean, a lion tamer doesn't crack a whip. The lions start thinking he doesn't have a whip. You catch my drift. I don't I don't if you've I don't know if you've ever seen lions turn on their master, but there's a reason I stopped watching lion videos. And then the other guy goes, "That's a really effective analogy, John. Good job." So the other one, the other quote I have from the book was managers can threaten people with a loss of jobs if they don't get with the program. But threats, power, and a position do not earn commitment. They earn compliance. And then I put both quotes highlight the limitations and drawbacks using threats and fear-based tactics as motivational tools in an organization. They argue that threats, power, and position do not earn commitment, but lead to compliance. The use of fear as a motivator is temporary and potentially risky. And both quotes question the effectiveness of fear-based management. They emphasize the need for genuine motivation and the risk of negative consequences. The first quote suggests that a commitment is not achieved through threats, power, and position, while the second quote uses a sarcastic and ironic analogy. Both quotes suggest the risk of negative reactions or consequences if employees feel manipulated or controlled through fear. In conclusion, they emphasize the importance of cultivating genuine commitment and motivation through more positive and constructive means.
Like that.
I mean, haven't we all? I think at some point in our lives, all of us have worked in a coercive atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
Terrible,
Yeah.
right? Like worst experience ever.
Well, that's why they say people don't leave their jobs, they leave their
With their bosses.
managers.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. So I've worked at 47 different types of Amazons, but I remember I was working at a distribution center, and I think I had spoken to that before, but they had these people called learning ambassadors, and they're kind of like mentors for like the new people coming in. They've got the little blue vest, and they're like, "Oh, let me help you, or I'll help you with this, this, that, and the other." There was one named Judy, and I remember her name, and that is not a good thing. And I remember that she was always up everybody's ass and
Mhm.
nothing but complaints like, sir, you need to clock in after you do that. Sir, you need to be doing this. Sir, you need to be doing that. And it kind of like, and she would, and I was like top of the leaderboard because I'm competitive and like I have to be number one. But anyways, she would like come for me every single day, like, you need to make sure that this, that, and the other. And what ended up happening was she wasn't a learning ambassador in like the next session or whatever turnover they do because no one liked her. Everybody was like, I do not like Judy. So like single-handedly, not even really in a position of authority, just like her presence and like all of that, you need to blah 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 blah, just made everybody not want to work there. And that was just one
Well,
person.
it reminds, just because people want to be, and I think we probably talked about this before, be in a certain position or be a leader or supervisor doesn't mean that that's where their gifts and talents lie. So that's the whole reason why when my counterpart over in the Netherlands quit to go to another startup company, there was somebody on the team who wanted the role, and everybody said if he gets the role, like we're all quitting because he's not a good people person. And so I took the team over. First of all, I had to connect with him and see what gets him going. Why is he had applied for another role within the organization. He didn't get it, but You know, I'm like, what is it that, like, what do you want to do? Like, what gives you energy? Like, and he likes to do physician training. And so I asked, like, well, why aren't you doing that anymore? Well, they took it away from me. So then I went to my boss. I said, why isn't Luke doing customer training anymore? Well, it was more of a budget thing. So I said, well, I said, how about if areas want him to do a training that they pay for him to come there? And that's how we resolved it. But anyways, he still continued to be kind of a poison on the team and very, very abrasive, not just with me, with his colleagues, with people in other departments. So he was very toxic to the team, and he finally left a couple years ago. Best thing that ever happened. But
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
anyways, my point is to, like, this lady who she wanted to be this ambassador, but she
Mhm.
wasn't good at it, you know? So people
Yeah.
can, they can want to do something all they want if that's not, and they're not, well, I'm just saying leadership, we know leadership can be learned, but you have to be willing to take the, you know, criticism. Like, I would have made Luke a supervisor over there, but I couldn't even do that, you know?
Mhm.
So.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Tina, what did you watch?
Yeah, I watched the same thing, but I kind of focused on a different aspect than Don did. So the quote that so after he gave, like, the feedback, this guy says, well, John, some of these adjectives will clearly haunt me for the rest of my life. And the guy says, right, you clearly put a lot of thought into that. So good job, you know? And where he meant it sarcastically, like, that guy took it like seriously, like, wow, I did a good job. So then from the text, from the textbook, people value being appreciated for their contribution. Recognition does not have to be elaborate, just genuine. I did another anecdote. So same thing, focused on the employee health surveys. A lot of little things come out on your employee health surveys. And so one area, again, besides the other one that we just talked about, was recognition. A few years ago, one area of our employee health survey that demonstrated an area of opportunity was that of recognition. After seeing the results, I met with the leaders of my team and we came up with some ideas to rectify the mediocre score. First, we sent out a survey asking employees how they like to be recognized. We then came up with a quarterly nomination process to celebrate small and or big wins. Managers made an effort to seek out opportunities to give recognition points to team members more often. And we also encouraged team members to send written recognition cards to each other through our system throughout the year. So we increased our one-on-one meeting times with our direct reports and met even if only to chit chat. Like, we didn't cancel meetings if we didn't have anything business, we just would chat. And so during the team calls, we started utilizing breakout rooms and icebreaker topics so that employees could feel more connected. So I just think it all ties into like being recognized for the little things, for being positive, showing your employees, you know, that you care about them. Whereas in this performance review process, you know, it was a joke, but, like, obviously he did not, like, he just nitpicked the person to death, right? I mean, it was a spoof because he talked about everything from his hair to, like, his knobby knees, remember? You know, and the guy just stood there. I don't know if you watched the same one, Michael, or not, but
I didn't. I'm realizing this now.
yeah. But it was,
It was interesting to watch.
yeah. So
Um, so I guess leadership is also then a disposition, right? And leaders have to be, I don't know, it feels like they have to be in a productive place in their own lives. Because I mean, if one leader cannot manage their own things they have going on in their own life. Like, I just don't see how it's possible for them to have the bandwidth to show up in ways that's going to be useful for the people that they lead. And so I would imagine, like, if someone is not in a good place in their own life, then that experience and those expectations, I feel like, would inform their perspective in their professional life too. And maybe that's
Absolutely.
a stretch, but
No, I get what you're trying to say with that. And this
Mhm.
is where I think authentic leadership comes in, where you have this rapport with your teammates, with your constituents who report to you, and that, you know what? We're all human as leaders, and we're not going to be on every single second of the day. So if you have
Mhm.
something personally going on in your life, I say share it. I remember when I found out that my ex-husband was cheating, and I tried to keep it to myself at work. And we're mainly females on the team, and the Santa Ana team where before we all went remote, where I would go every day, I just sat at my desk and I couldn't hold it in anymore. And I just started crying, and everybody, like, you couldn't see because we had cubes, and everybody came around and they're like, what happened? And they're like hugging me, are you okay? And I just like was vulnerable, and I told them what happened. And so
Yeah.
that they understood, like, if I wasn't performing at my best for a month, they knew
That's
why.
right. Yeah.
Because I was going through, a super traumatic experience.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better to share when that's happening, because I see that even at companies and like mine, when my son was deployed, for a mother, that's a scary situation.
absolutely.
For my son, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, no problem, mom. And I'm like, you guys don't understand. Children do not understand what they put their parents through. They
They
really
won't understand, Dawn, until they have their own kids.
exactly.
If
And
they have kids,
yeah, well, I sort of curse my children, so they're sort of putting it off.
You're like, don't worry, you're gonna go through what I went through. I put it
Yeah,
on
well,
you.
Yeah.
my daughter and my older son, I said, I hope you have one just like you. I really, really do. But my middle son, he is the bane of my existence. He really is. This child has no fear, and
Mhm.
he will like test you till the ends of hell. And I'm like, one day I just looked at him and I said, Joseph, I said, one day you're going to wake up and you're going to have twins, and they're going to be both just like you.
Good. That's
Yeah.
uh so the video I actually ended up watching was Mad TV corporate boss gives an employee evaluation.
Mhm.
And so in it, basically what happens is she walks into her evaluation, and she gets this glowing review. And it's like, there's just one small little thing. Sometimes your memos have typos. And that's the only critique that she gets. As she starts wailing and
I
crying. It's
did
like,
see that
oh,
one too. I
yeah.
watched that one
Oh
too.
my
Yeah.
God. Yeah, you're going to fire me. Oh, I'm just terrible. I
Mhm.
can't do anything. And he's like, calm down. It's
Yeah.
okay. Forget about the typos, So she eventually breaks down, starts breaking vases, clears off his desk, and then she gets fired. Of which I actually kind of like that, because, like, don't our expectations usually come to fruition? Anyways, so
Mhm.
my quote is,
Self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
yes, yes. So my quote that I pulled from my video is, and I quote, "Oh my God, I can't do anything right." And so then I tie it to this quote and the text that says, "You should avoid serving a feedback sandwich, a traditional technique for giving feedback where you put a slice of praise on top and on bottom and stick together the meat of any criticism in between." And so then what I speak to is, I say, we generally tend to focus on the negative more than we do the positive. Therefore, in my role as a coach, I either give criticism with context or I give praise. I do not mix the two. With respect to criticism, I provide it in a way that demonstrates what they are capable of in that moment, i.e., this skill is not hitting because you need to make the following changes to your body mechanics, or what you are thinking going into the skill is making the physical approach timid. So like you being intimidated or scared. So even though you're timid, try being more aggressive. And then so with respect to actual praise, it is specific, not just you did great, but you did great because of the way you made a change in this particular instance. So in coaching in general, I coach like girls. Rarely, I mean, there are lots of co-ed teams with lots of guys out there, but not in my program. It's all girls. And I would say the average age is about 14. So, you know, walking in the door, they already feel like I don't like them.
Yeah.
Because it's those awkward middle school years where you're like, you know, popularity and so I have to be very specific in all of the feedback that I give. So if I need like a change, what I have to do is just like remain very quantitative with it and not qualitative, i.e. like your back handspring didn't land because your legs were bent. So in your next attempt, what we're going to do is we're going to squeeze our legs straight. And then that should help you improve your back handspring, which is different than saying, you know, like, well, your back handspring doesn't look that good. Like those are going to come across to a 14-year-old in two very devastatingly different ways.
Yeah.
And then with respect to praise, you know, like you're doing great, like you're doing good. Da, 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 da. You know, kids get a lot. I think a lot nowadays, kids, maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to tell me that I am completely wrong. And it's fine. But I think we have praise inflation. So like
Yeah, I agree
meaningless,
with that.
I
like
agree.
it's just meaningless praise. Like you're great. Oh my gosh, you know, and like, but why? What is it
Because
exactly that they're doing that earn them the praise? Like what specifically? So like when a kid does something that earns them praise, it is always attached to the praise. Hey, you did a really good job in that routine because even though there were some mistakes, you recovered in this instance and you recovered in this instance, and that's what we're looking for, which is better than you did great. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
I agree.
but yeah, with respect to with respect to the video though, people really do kind of fly off the handle like that. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's funny because even though it's like the video in and of itself, it's really only that far outside of reality.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's my video.
that was good. I did watch that one too.
In the part two with question prompt A and question prompt B, I think I understood it. So Don, do you want to talk about your prompt A?
Okay, I think I understood it.
Okay.
So my answer was, I'm hoping this is right. By encouraging a proactive and diverse approach to fostering creativity, innovation, and outside of the box thinking within a team setting, here are some key elements and suggestions that I came up with. Diverse sources of inspiration, encouraging team members to explore various sources of inspiration, including music, art, literature, libraries, real world experiences, engaging websites, and learning from lives of influential individuals like Nobel Peace Prize winners, such as Malala. Team building games and simulations, incorporating team building games and simulations on leadership to enhance collaboration, communication, and problem solving skills within the team. And encouraging exploration, urging team members to actively seek out new and diverse materials beyond the provided leadership resource module to foster a culture of continuous learning and exploration. And then promoting a cultural of innovation using a concept of pivoting suggests a flexible and adaptive mindset within team, encouraging them to explore new ideas, perspectives, and approaches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tino,
I,
go ahead.
for some reason, I totally, like in the part two, it's like, I don't know if my mind like missed that whole paragraph on prompt A.
Mhm.
I didn't see it and I just
No,
did
I
prompt
wasn't
B.
even sure if it was an actual prompt or if it
That's
was.
why I didn't know if it was an actual prompt, so I guess my mind was just like, okay, and then I focused on prompt B, so.
Okay. Um, I'll answer prompt A really quick. I
Yeah.
just am bringing an example of a game that I use to teach teamwork and communication to my teams. It's
Mhm.
called Machine. Machine, like parts and stuff. Okay. So two teams. So a group, like one group and another group. Out of each group, you have one guesser. So the rest of the kids will come to me and I will tell them, like, give them an object, like microwave. Then the remaining kids outside of the person from their team that's guessing have to go out onto the floor and then build and construct a microwave with their own bodies. And their
Oh,
teammate has to stand in front of the floor and guess what they're trying to be. So like it could be roller coaster, car, microwave, can opener. It could be something like a chicken, egg, like whatever. And so then these kids are like trying to just like build a machine with their bodies, and then their teammate is like, it's this, it's this. It's almost like Pictionary, but in real life. And then of course
mhm.
the kid who guesses correctly first, that team gets the point, and then we do another round. But it like taking something abstract, well, not necessarily abstract, like if I were to say like build an airplane, you know, they're starting with nothing, running out there like, okay, I've got 9 people, how are we going to build an airplane? And then so then they start figuring it out, and they're all talking at once, and they're all like trying to problem solve it. And so it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of physical slapstick humor to it. But it really forces them to start with nothing and then like
Mhm.
try to figure out how to communicate this thing with no words, just using their bodies to someone who's watching. And so it's actually a pretty cool game. So,
So, so you said there's about 9 members on the team?
or however many, like if
Yeah.
I have a team of 20 kids, it'll be 2 teams of 10. And you don't have to have even numbers. If I
And
have a team,
they pick with the object that they want, or you tell them?
no, I tell them.
Okay.
So they'll choose a person to guess, like you're gonna guess this time, and so then that person
Mhm.
steps away, and the
Mhm.
remain, and so that then 2 kids step away, and then both teams come to me because they get the same object, and I'll say you're building a car. So they're like,
Oh, got
okay.
it. Okay.
So then they
Okay.
go back out onto the floor, and the guessers don't know what I've told them. And then when I say go, I'm like go. They will like start to build a car out of themselves, and like,
That's so
and
fun. What a
yeah, they'll like animate it too. They'll have like a person
Mhm.
driving, honking the horn, and like
Mhm.
people forward rolling as the wheels, and like people acting as the doors. Like it's great.
Oh,
Like it's
how
so much fun.
fun.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's the
that's a really
team.
good idea.
Yeah, the team. I don't know if you can do it in an office setting, but if you can, I highly suggest it. It's a lot of fun. So,
Well, I mean, that's for what you do for teach coaching gymnastics. I
oh
mean,
yeah.
what a great way, because isn't that sometimes, I only know this from my nieces, but I feel like a lot of times things are acted out like
Mhm.
on the stage where maybe they're kind of learning that in this sort of.
Like some body awareness, some body
Yeah,
mechanics.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's such a fun game, and you know, the kids really seem to like it, and it really does teach them how to solve a problem together. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
That's great. That really
okay,
is.
Yeah, yeah.
all right. Prompt D, B. Okay.
Okay. All right. So I did Limaya and Malaya. You want us to do 1, 2?
I did one. I chose
That's
one
fun.
person, and I read an interview, and then I watched a TED Talk, and then I just wrote keywords.
Okay. Which one did you do?
I did Elizabeth Nyamaro,
Okay.
Yeah, so did I.
Mario.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
what did you do, Tina?
Same.
You did? Okay.
I watched a TED Talk by her and kind of read a little bit about her on Wikipedia, you know, and
Click.
just yeah, just kind of summarized. I mean, I have to be a little honest. I feel like that we're given a lot to talk about during the co-mentoring, and I wish, like, for example, the first section, I think was plenty. Like the section, the second part, like the second part
Mhm.
Mhm.
was like a lot on top of, you know,
Have you,
Um,
I
have you,
I personally feel a little bit, but
have you looked at next week's?
I have not. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, yeah, I just pulled it up a little while ago.
yeah, and the vibe I'm getting from you is that it's cumbersome.
Yeah.
Well, here's
For the final week, I mean,
Yeah,
okay,
and we
that's
got to finish the PowerPoint and all that. Yeah,
great.
yeah. So it's a
Well,
lot. It's been a like you our assignments that we have to turn in, you know, we get those in, and then, you know, we're supposed to have these discussions, and then you look at the depth of all the various prompts, and it's just sometimes I feel a little bit overwhelmed by it because this isn't my only class. I have two other classes. And so
well,
I'm just kind of like,
then you have, you know, for a lot of these online students, they have work.
oh yeah, well, that's besides work. Yeah. You
Right,
work your
right,
full-time job and then,
yeah. And I think, you know what, these teachers, it's amazing to me because I also had another class, but I had to write two 1,500 word papers. And then I had to, on top of that, do a reflection of the entire class, which had to be about 750 at the minimum words. And then, you know, the tests and everything and getting it all done. And, you know, it's fine. But these, you know, co-mentoring meetings, I mean, I've enjoyed them because I like talking to you
yes,
guys.
yeah,
But like you
yes.
said, Tina, I think we could have just done with the first half and maybe one question from here, pick one and discuss it, and then turn it in because it's like he's not even really grading the second half.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I thoroughly appreciate it. Like, I share that point of view in that, like, I would rather have like one prompt and go more in depth with it
I agree.
than like
I
scratch the
agree.
surface of several things.
Yeah.
But you know, the thing of it is that like what I have chosen to do with the breadth of work is like just like do it, move on, do it, move on. So
Mhm.
like for example, with the videos, if it was over 5 minutes, I didn't watch it. I
Yeah.
chose I chose the short videos, and then
Mhm.
after having read our text, the moment that something from the text stood out in the video, I paused it, pulled that quote, knew exactly where that quote was because I highlight, put it together, and spoke to it, and then I moved
Yeah.
on. You know,
Yeah.
so like working efficiently means that like I have a generalized understanding of the text, and I bring a lot of my own life into it, but
Mhm.
like there's no conceivable way we could really dive in and really wrestle with some of these concepts and then have things done on time. So
Right.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah. And so sometimes I feel like I'm not giving my best work maybe in my responses in these because I'm feeling rushed to get everything done. I literally look at the calendar on Canvas and I'm like, okay, what's due next? And I just have to, because with the three classes, I'm like, okay, this is due Friday. I had to watch a 2-hour movie in my sports leadership class. I watched that on Wednesday, started typing part of it and finished it on Thursday. It was a 5-page paper, you
Mhm.
know? And so it came together rather quickly, but then I had to go back and reference all of the material that like each week that the instructor gave us on the different sports leaders from Vince Lombardi to, you know, Coach Wooden, who's a famous basketball coach. And, you know, I like sports, but I've heard some of these names before. But anyways, besides watching a movie and giving a summary, you had to pull out from these various other coaches. Did you see some of these leaderships?
Hello? I think my internet is.
Just like,
Yeah.
okay, done,
I think
check off. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. I think my internet's getting unstable. It did this last time too.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
So-
Well, you know what? We've already hit over an hour.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and he does say like you may run out of time. You may not get
Yeah.
to discuss everything. So I'm actually
Yeah.
totally cool not discussing prompt B. I mean,
yeah. I think
mean,
it's reasonable. I mean, because we could be on here another 30 minutes if we,
Go
or
through
we get
at least
we-
even just one.
we could literally do it like this. Are you ready? Elizabeth, here we go. Key points: village, poor, move, inequality, no matter where she goes, inequality, blue uniform
Yeah.
inspired her. Boom, you win. There's my
Yeah.
take on it.
did you do
Done.
the same
100%.
person, Dawn? Or no?
I sort of did all three.
Oh, okay.
You did
Yeah.
it, and I am proud of you.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead with yours. I closed out my my Word document.
Mine is super short. It's like I just put Elizabeth N. was raised by her grandmother in a village in Zimbabwe. Famine hit her country and they were all hungry. Someone in a blue uniform from the United Nations came to the village to feed the children. Meeting this woman made an impact on her. Elizabeth asked her why she was there, and the young lady told her, as Africans, we must uplift all the people of Africa. This later would have a profound impact on her. Elizabeth later would go to school for the first time at age 10, as her grandmother had to send her to the city. So she would have food. At this point, she began to realize the inequality that exists in the world, in particular between boys and girls and women and men. She created an organization for gender equality called He for She. It's about uplifting women and men together. She has worked with multiple organizations and companies that focus on initiatives that supports women's needs.
I got all of that from the video as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. I will do the same thing. My video is going to convert to an MP4 on my laptop after we close out. I'll upload that to YouTube later on today and make that link available in the announcements. Sound good?
Yep.
Yeah. I think my internet is being weird again.
Yeah, it's kind of breaking up.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I'll get that available to you. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.